Today, the goal is to help you improve your knees, to take all the little mistakes that people usually make, eliminate them, and elevate those knees just like that. That's what we're gonna aim for. Just the other day, I put out a video talking about how to improve your front kicks and round kicks instantly. Just watch the video and you're gonna see some improvement. Same thing today with knees. Hope you guys enjoy it. What we're gonna be focusing on today is how to execute the knee without controlling somebody. And this is where a lot of people shy away from knees. They get very hesitant in sparring. If they can control, they're very happy to throw up side knees, but those are not very powerful. And from the clinch, I don't think I've ever been hit with a knee to the side, one of those little skip ones, where I felt any damage. And a lot of people struggle to get off the straight knees from the clinch because your opponent or your sparring partner should push their hips in, making that very difficult. If their hips are right here, it's hard for me to get my knee up and come right down the middle. It's much easier for me to just lift to the side and batter my knee against their ribs. So we are going to be focusing on imagining we're out here, we throw some punches, and then we come up the middle with the knee. The reason most people shy away from this one is it takes setup. You can't just walk in, blah, 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 throw a knee and not get punched in the face. There's many elements which we need to correct to make sure you're confident in doing this. And while we're looking at how you're going to protect your head with hand positioning, we're also going to focus on the finer details of the knee to make sure you're maximizing your range and you're not getting sloppy with this super powerful technique. And keep in mind, this is a super powerful technique. Just the other day, I was doing some body conditioning. I had somebody punching me in the stomach with gloves, throwing round kicks on me with shin pads, and then throwing knees in. And the knees were by far the worst ones to take because the surface area is just so small and you have bone hitting you right in the stomach, as opposed to a cross to the body where you have that padded glove, which is going to be causing the impact. So if you can be somebody who can get down knees, whether offensively you're moving into them or defensively they're attacking you, if you can fire a knee into the belly, you're gonna see people just start to drop to the floor when they get winded. So the very first element that I wanna focus on is, what are our hands gonna do? I can guarantee you what you don't want your hands doing is not protecting your face. That is a recipe for disaster. And there are a couple different options which both work very well, which we're gonna focus on right now. The first of the two, I would say, is more of a Dutch style way of throwing a knee in terms of what your hands do. Your hands are up, you're protecting your head, you fire off your knee. If you throw your right knee, your right hand is gonna stay where it is. It's going to stay protecting your head. Your left one, the opposite, is going to fire to the outside of the arm that is up protecting your face. So it's basically left arm swings across the face as the right knee protrudes out. If we switch, we do the opposite. And what we're doing here is we're creating coverage from any straight punches which might come right down the middle. They're going to deflect off my elbow. And I almost, when I teach this, I talk about people thinking like Dracula. When you see Dracula and he has his cape and he throws his arm up like this and he's sort of covering his face and you only see his eyes, that's what we're aiming for. If you go too high, they're going to catch you in the jaw. If you come in the middle, you can't see anything. So just enough that you can see the chest of your opponent, and that is a great position to make sure they're not going to land anything of substance. If they try to come up and over it, it's a very weak shot. So that is option number one in what my hands do. Let them flow naturally. As my knee comes out, my arm crosses in front of my face, and it's very easy for me to balance and get that positioning off. Option number two, which I like just as much, is to reach down the middle with both arms. Now you're not going to grab your opponent, but you're basically placing your hands up and creating a little bit of a shield, because your hands are going to block the straight punches and the high elbows and the shoulders are going to block anything that comes from the outside. The danger here is the uppercut. Actually, Masato knocked somebody out as he went to throw a knee. A Thai fighter in 2003, Max semi-final. I got all this information on the top of my head just because I've watched it so many times, but the guy comes forward to do some kind of knee and Masato, boom, right up the middle. And the guy comes like this and gets caught. So we have to be very aware that yes, the uppercut is there. It is dangerous, but I could be at range, take a little step forward, put both hands out and fire my knee. This one works very nice offensively or defensively, because if somebody decides to walk in and start punching me, I can just stuff my hands out, jam their punches, and then fire the knee down the middle. So you choose whichever one feels more natural, or switch according to which one seems right in the moment. That's even better if you have both options, firing from here or reaching and blocking. I like those two. Those are my favorites. It doesn't mean they're the only options in terms of what you can do with your hands while throwing a knee, but they're the two that I want to focus on today. In all honesty, I could probably make a 30 to 60 minute video on knees. So like always, we're condensing this down to approximately 10 minutes. Now, assuming, or me hoping, that you have those hand positions down somewhat correctly and are feeling confident with it, we can now move on to the execution of the actual knee. And we can remove the hands for this and add them in after. But really, if I just let my hands sort of fall, I can still do my correct proper knee and then add those in after. Couple key points that people mess up on. Number one, their heel on the standing leg stays flat. If you keep it flat, you're going to see the extension which I can get. It's to about there. That's the maximum range. As soon as I disconnect my heel, I can start protruding that knee out here versus here. And that can make a big difference, especially if somebody's throwing punches or you're just wanting to aim that extra 3 inches through their stomach. It makes a big difference. So as you throw your knee, remember up to the ball of the foot and push your hips forward to maximize range. In addition, my foot on the leg that I'm kneeing with, it's best served tucking tight to my glute. If I come like this, there's a good chance my foot or my shin is going to connect with them before my knee does, which is going to minimize the amount of power which I can actually put into my opponent. So I want to drive this heel right into my glute so that there's no contact with anything below the knee. Now, what you do with your head in this scenario really depends on whether you're being offensive or defensive and what hand position that we already talked about, which you choose to take. Sometimes when I throw a knee, I can keep my head fairly forward. That's when I'm going to fall to the clinch after. If I'm not wanting to fall to the clinch, I'm wanting to maintain distance, then perhaps my head is just going to scoot back just a little bit, but small little motions. Don't bury your head forward or throw your head way back. Both of those are going to cause you to be off balance. And I've seen people do that many times. They're kind of like, ugh, and they're just getting so far back that it's very awkward to have a nice fluid knee. So head stays fairly stationary with small motions in either direction, depending on what feels right for you in any given moment. Now, I very quickly want to move into the lead knee and just talk about how to get to the point where you can actually throw it. If somebody's attacking you, you're probably not going to skip and throw. It's a little too slow. You'll probably just come off the back leg. So generally, the lead leg is going to be for offensive purposes. Doesn't mean every time, but most often, offensive purposes. I want to get this knee up. I don't want to lift and try and poke it out. It's not going to be very powerful, and the guy has to be way too close. I'm going to want to cover some distance. So I'm either going to do that with a little skip where I shuffle forward very slightly, or I'm going to step through, and I could disguise that step through with a punch, or maybe faking a front kick and then dropping and throwing my knee. But off this side, I see people struggle very often to make it look fluid and not to be, I want to say, almost forcing it. So those are the two ways that I prefer. One, or step through, two. And again, I'll disguise that step through with that. Usually, that's my preferred way. And the final thing I want to give you today, which is not necessarily your knee technique, but going to make it easier for you to actually land, is how do we close the distance, or how do we set it up? Because like we said at the beginning, just standing here and walking forward and trying to throw the knee, when you're learning it, it feels very risky. The more confident you get with your hand positioning, the more confident you'll be to just step in. You'll see Buakaw do that all the time, just whoop, and just step right in. Doesn't care about people throwing hands. But when you're trying to learn and you want to have that little moment where you're going, okay, I can throw this knee and I don't have to worry about punches flying at me, in my opinion, it is best to either fake the person out and distract them, or to throw some hands first. So the two options will look like this. Number one, let some hands go, distract them, get their guard up really high, boom, 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 and then throw the knee. Boom, boom, step through, throw the knee. Just let your hands go initially, and then come up the middle with the knee, and the pace needs to be 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, pause, 3, because now that guy has chance to block, reset, and then deal with your knee. So it's rapid, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you're fairly quick off your attacks. And option number 2, which we already mentioned, is give them something to think about. Show them the front kick, step through knee. Off the lead side, slide front kick, step through knee. I could come with a fake low kick, step through knee. There's so many ways to set it up, but in terms of trying to execute and actually land, I like those two ways. Hands first into the knees, or a fake off the legs into the knee. They both flow very nicely. And like I already said, I could talk about this for like 30 to 60 minutes, but that's kind of it for me today. I need a little break, a little rest. So we're gonna call it there. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, please give it a like. If you have not already, join the channel, get subscribed. Train hard, guys. I'll see you back here soon for another video.